Good morning, Chalk Mercantile and Surface Anthology. Today, what I want to go over with you guys is the basics of using milk paint. And I'm going to be using Miss Mustard Seeds milk paint. And this is this cute little chair that I have for my grandson, Mateo, that I'm determined to paint. It's got a little matching table before he's driving. So I chose to use Artissimo. This is this really beautiful deep indigo navy blue by Miss Mustard Seed. It's one of my favorite colors. So we are going to learn how to get this piece ready, mix up your milk paint, and apply your first coat. And then I'll post pictures in the comments when this is finished and as I'm working on it. So first things first, mixing up your milk paint. You need some warm, I use warm tap water. Obviously you need your Artissimo, and I need something to measure it out with. So when you're mixing up milk paint, Miss Mustard Seeds milk paint, it's 1 part paint to 1 part water. That's where you start. It could change depending on how thick you want to work, how thick you want your paint to work with. I like the chippy, drippy, all that kind of age and texture that milk paint creates. So I work on the thinner side. So say I'm starting with about a tablespoon. And you see me mixing up my milk paint first. You can actually do this the night before. And this is real milk paint. Actual milk paint is always in powder form. Milk paint does not exist in a liquid form unless you have mixed it up. That's only true milk paint. Anything else is not real milk paint. And the reason being, milk paint has milk protein in it and it will go bad. But you can mix it up the night before so that way it's ready to go in the morning. It gets thicker as it sits. So minimally, I like to do like 5 minutes, though I'm known to kind of push things. So you pour your water in, get out your little whisk. If you're doing a really huge project and mixing up a lot, you could use an immersion blender. And I usually use a ball jar, the glass canning jars, and the ones that have kind of a flat bottom, because you want your whisk to get in there and really hit all of that. So actually, I'm going to use my tongue depressor to get all of that paint goodness and mixed up. Now, while that's resting, I'm going to get the surface ready. You can, this surface has shellac on it. You can see it, or some kind of a varnish. It's pine, it's a soft wood, but it's been finished with something. Now, there's a few ways to go about this. Obviously, you need to clean your piece to get it ready. If I want a really good adhesion, I could scuff this up with sandpaper. I can apply Zinsser Bullseye shellac to it. I can also add Miss Mustard Seeds bonding agent to my milk paint if I really want to get it to stick. For this, all I'm going to do is scuff up the surface with a sanding block, because I want it to chip and, do all that thing. You cannot control the chipping. So don't think you can, you can't. You gotta let it do its thing. Now, if you guys are sensitive to dust, please wear a mask. And we all know how to wear a mask now. So there you go. And wipe all that dust off. And it's always a bit of an experiment. If you're a painter who does custom work, you absolutely should do a test area on your piece of furniture and really get to know the milk paint, get to know how it reacts so you're comfortable with it. I'm actually gonna add, mine is pretty thin. It should be like cream. Mine is like skim milk at this point. So I'm gonna add a little bit more paint to my mixture. And give that a good stir. And I want to show you, I have some examples of the difference because everybody asks me, well, what's the difference between milk paint and chalk paint? And there's a huge difference. And they're both wonderful for sure, but there's a really, really big difference. And I use them both. I often use them together, where I'll use chalk paint on my surface and then put milk paint on top of it. Here's a good example. Hang on, let me grab my other. So, this is a barn quilt, mini barn quilt done with milk paint. So you see all the irregularities in the paint and the texture, really pretty. And here is one done with chalk paint. And it's more consistent. The inconsistencies you see are because I've sanded it lightly before I waxed it. So, because I wanted to create some kind of texture with this, but you can really see the difference between the two. Very, very different, both equally beautiful. They each have their own personality. All right, let's see how our Artissimo's doing. Looks good. Now, when I paint with milk paint, you know, this is a synthetic brush, and here's a natural bristle brush. I usually use a natural bristle brush because I think it just goes along with the texture and creating it. But you can use a synthetic brush. And when you're using it, every time you dip your brush in, give it a stir because it settles. It all settles, so you have to constantly agitate it. And there we go. Now, you can see I've got little lumps here because I wasn't really good about mixing it up as much as I should have been, but I'm going with it. I just leave it. When you paint raw wood, it's just beautiful because the raw wood absorbs the milk paint and it's almost like a stain. And the milk paint, once it cures, is pretty indestructible. So you see me, every time I dip my brush in, I give it a little swirl. All right, and there's the first coat. The coverage is quite nice. Again, if I want to use it as a stain, I wouldn't use it as a stain on a pre-finished surface like this, but on raw wood. And if I want to do that, I would mix it up a little bit thinner than what I have, which is like cream right now. And it will get thicker as, you know, if I sit this down for an hour, it's definitely going to get thicker. But this is it, you guys. Here's the first coat. I'm going to let this dry. And I will apply a second coat. I don't sand between coats, but it'll be interesting to see how much chipping I get with this, if I get anything at all. You could push it along with a blow dryer, but this is the absolute basic way to use Miss Mustard Seed milk paint. So we mix it up 1-to-1 with warm water, stir it really well, oops, and stir it really well and stir it every time you dip that brush in there, give it a little swirl, apply your first coat and let it dry. And you, again, I'm gonna say it, because this is the biggest question, can I control how it chips? You can't. It's even when you use the bonding agent, which is really good stuff, it's hard to control milk paint, and that's one of the qualities that we like about it, is that it does its own thing, it has its own personality. If you guys have any questions at all, please ask in the comments. I hope you have a wonderful day. It's beautiful here in Connecticut, and I will post pictures of this project as I move through it. All right, you guys, take care. Thanks for joining me.